It's 3 a.m. You're lying there running through the day, the conversation that went sideways, the thing you said that you shouldn't have. The moment you knew what the right call was and made the wrong one anyway. You're not punishing yourself exactly, you're just reviewing. Watching the day play back like footage from a camera you can't turn off. You think this is a problem, you think you should be asleep. But what you're doing is something humans have done for a very long time, long before we had a name for it, long before anyone called it journaling or cognitive review or nightly reflection. In 170 AD, in a leather tent somewhere on the Danube frontier, a man was doing the same thing, not to fix himself, not to get better sleep. He was doing it because the alternative, letting the day pass without looking at it honestly, felt like a kind of dishonesty he couldn't live with. His name was Marcus Aurelius. He was Emperor of Rome, and he wrote down what he found. In 165 AD, Roman soldiers returning from a campaign in the east brought something back with them. Nobody knew what it was yet. Within months, it was in Rome. Within 2 years, it was everywhere. Grain routes, trade roads, military camps. The Antonine Plague killed somewhere between 5 and 10 million people over 15 years. Some estimates say 5,000 a day at its peak in Rome alone. The empire's tax base collapsed. Legions couldn't fill their roles. Marcus raised the pay of soldiers, minted coins with the treasury nearly dry, and personally oversaw relief efforts in provinces that were dying faster than he could respond. And every night, through all of it, he kept writing, not dispatches, not official correspondence, a private journal that nobody was supposed to read. We know it now as the Meditations. He wrote during campaigns, he wrote during plague years, he wrote during famine, and what he wrote wasn't about winning. It was about failing and continuing anyway, in a world that gave him every reason to stop. Seneca had a version of this practice. Every evening he'd examine the day. He wrote about it in Dira, on anger. He asked himself, where did I lose control today? Where did I fail someone? Where was I weaker than I wanted to be? Then he'd answer and move on, clean, methodical. Seneca's version reads like a lawyer cross-examining a witness. Marcus's version reads like someone who can't stop arguing with himself. Where Seneca reviews and concludes, Marcus reviews and circles back. He'll write something about patience, then 3 pages later, write the same thing again from a different angle, like he's not convinced. Scholars notice this. The Meditations aren't structured, they're not a finished book. They read like someone working through the same problems on a loop, without resolution. In Book 5, he reminds himself to stop seeking approval. In Book 8, the same reminder. In Book 11, again, you're not reading a philosopher who solved something. You're reading someone who kept failing at the same things and kept showing up to look at it honestly anyway. That's a different kind of text. Open the Meditations to almost any page, and you'll find him correcting himself. Book 2, stop wasting the rest of your life in thoughts about other people. Book 5, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddlesome, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. He's preparing for this. He knows it's coming. Book 6, you're troubled by external things. Give yourself more time to learn something new. The same pattern over and over. He identifies a failure mode, writes a correction, and then, weeks or months later, writes the correction again. Because he failed again. This isn't a man who figured it out. This is a man with enormous power, surrounded by courtiers and flatterers and crises, writing privately to himself, I lost my temper again today. I cared too much what someone thought of me again. I let someone else's behavior pull me out of my own center. He wrote these things for 19 years. The same failures, the same reminders, not because the method wasn't working, because the method was exactly this: catch the failure, name it, start again tomorrow. Morning after morning, Marcus got up and did it again. There's a passage in Book 5, one of the most honest things ever written by someone in his position. He imagines himself not wanting to get out of bed, giving himself reasons to stay under the covers. It's warmer here, the world outside is cold. And then he writes, bluntly, So you were born to feel nice. You're here to do things. He wrote this reminder to himself, the Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man alive at the time, writing like a man trying to drag himself out of bed on a cold morning. Which is exactly what he was. He failed at patience and wrote about it at night. He woke up the next day and tried again. He lost his composure in a meeting and wrote about it that evening. He got up the next morning and tried again. There's a word for this, not productivity, not optimization, not growth mindset. Perseverance. But the quieter kind. The kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that just keeps showing up to do the same review, knowing it won't be the last time. In the 1960 seconds, a psychiatrist named Aaron Beck was working with patients who couldn't stop replaying their failures. He developed a structured practice, identify the distorted thought, examine whether it's accurate, write a more balanced version, review tomorrow. He called it cognitive journaling. It became the foundation of CBT. Beck credited the Stoics directly. He'd read Epictetus. He probably read Marcus. The overlap isn't coincidence, it's convergence. Two different systems, centuries apart, arriving at the same conclusion. The review doesn't cure anything. It doesn't remove the failure. What it does is stop the failure from compounding, from becoming a story you tell yourself about who you are. Marcus Aurelius, plague emperor, general, reluctant ruler, wrote the same corrections for 19 years, not because he was broken. Because he was paying attention. He was watching himself honestly and refusing to look away. CBT therapists today give patients structured journals that do essentially the same thing Marcus was doing alone in a tent on the Danube, in the dark, with a stylus. Nobody told him to do it. Nobody was checking his work. Tonight, before you sleep, try this. Don't call it journaling. Don't make it a habit tracker. Just ask yourself 3 things about today. Where did I lose my footing? Was it something I could actually control? What would I do differently? That's it. No grades, no scoring. You're not trying to become someone who doesn't fail. You're trying to become someone who looks at the failure clearly, without flinching, without collapse, without the story that says, this time it proves something permanent about you. Marcus Aurelius ran an empire during a plague while writing the same reminders to himself year after year because he kept forgetting them. The reminders weren't a sign he was failing at philosophy. The reminders were the philosophy. You already know where you lost your footing today. You've been turning it over since it happened. The question isn't whether you'll do this review. You're already doing it. The question is whether you'll do it honestly. Whether you'll write down what you actually found instead of the version that lets you off the hook. Marcus didn't let himself off the hook. Not once in 19 years. That's the part nobody puts on the motivational posters.